now that we're starting to get familiar with our scene or our interface a little bit, I'm going to start incorporating some more ideas, and we're actually going to build a mini scene with a snowman. So I'm going to delete this. Okay, and now I'm going to go to Create, Polygon Primitives, Sphere. Okay, notice that that sphere comes at the center of the screen, the center of the origin. And remember that when you create it, make sure that interactive creation is turned off. Okay, now everything that I'm going to create is now at the center of our scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. I'm going to make sure that I'm on my scale tool. I'm going to grab the middle scale handle and I'm going to make this a little bit bigger like that. Scaling the center one, it's going to scale it uniformly. Then I'm going to go to my move and I'm going to go ahead and move this away from the center like this. And then I'm going to set it up here on the grid like that. In this view, I can see that it's kind of out of view. So I'm going to hold down Alt and right mouse click, and you can see that that will zoom back. Or I could Alt and right mouse click and move my mouse the other way, and it's going to zoom in. Okay. Same with these other views. On this one, on the front view, I could Alt and right mouse click back and forth. And if I go Alt and middle mouse click, it'll move it like this. Okay. Middle mouse is the wheel on the mouse. So now I can move it like this. And in perspective, once again, I'm holding down Alt and middle mouse clicking, it moves it like this. I could also Alt and left mouse click, moves like this. Alt and right mouse moves like this. So just kind of some interface navigation. Okay. Now I'm going to come back up here. I'm going to create polygon sphere. And since I'm building a snowman, I want to have 3 spheres stacked on top of each other. So now this one, I'm going to go to my scale. I'm going to scale it from the center. I'm going to make it just slightly smaller than this one. And now I'm going to go to my move, and I'm going to move it over. And notice that I'm using my orthographic views, okay? And I'm going to set it on top, okay? The reason that I'm using these orthographic views is because of this. Watch this. If I'm going to tap the space bar, and if I'm in this view, I could go like this. Okay. And see how it looks like it's sitting on top of that sphere? However, when I rotate my camera, I can see that that was just an illusion. Okay. Actually, a lot of magicians kind of use that trick, that they use perspective to deceive us. And we don't want that problem to happen. So I'm going to tap the space bar. And to avoid that problem, if I align it in my front, top, and side view, okay, maybe I have them even intersecting a little bit like that. And if I can say, yes, it looks like it's sitting on top of that sphere there, it looks correct here, and it looks correct here, then in my perspective, when I move around, I can see that, yes, sure enough, that sphere is actually sitting on top of that. Okay, so I'm going to create one more. I'm going to go to Create, Polygon Primitive, Sphere. And now I'm going to make this, I'm going to scale this up a little bit. This is going to be his head. And then I'm going to go to my move, and I'm going to move this. Once again, I'm moving it in my side, my front. You might say, well, what view do I move it in? Well, you can just move it in any of them that makes sense. Like I just moved it up here. And yeah, I can see that it's obviously off here, so I'm going to move that into place. And then it looks like that one doesn't really need any adjustment. And that looks good. Now I can rotate this around, and I can see that, sure enough, yes, that looks correct. Okay, great. So we're getting a great start to this. And once again, the reason that this snowman isn't directly in the center is because all my shapes are created at the center. Okay. Now, this snowman obviously needs a carrot nose. So if I go to Create, Polygon Primitives, I can look at my list of primitives here, and I can see that cone is going to be the closest to a carrot. So that's a good starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And I can see that it created a cone. And now maybe I scale this. So if I take my scale tool and if I grab the center, I can see that it's making that cone bigger uniformly in all directions. But if I grab the green scale handle, I can see that it's scaling it longer, like that, kind of stretching it out. And that's what I want for his nose. Okay. Now I want to place this carrot on his face. And what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm respecting my front and my side views. Okay. So what do I mean by that? Well, if I rotate this, I'm going to have this carrot facing this way because yes, this is the side view. And if I kind of envision what it looks like if I was facing that carrot, that would look right. And now I can simply go up here and say that's where his nose is going to be. Okay, now I can see which way he's facing. Here it doesn't really matter, but I can see that it's aligned from these other views. And now I'm going to go ahead and scale it. I'm going to scale it uniformly from the center. And I'm just going to kind of make it fit kind of a better size, maybe like that. Okay, great. Make that a little bit bigger. And that looks good. Now we're not really technically modeling now. Okay, we'll get into more kind of appropriate modeling in later lessons, but this is more of a lesson about how to interact with the interface. Okay, make sure you're comfortable moving around. Okay, a few other things that I'm going to do. I want to create a hat for the snowman. So if I go to create polygon cylinders, or I'm sorry, create polygon primitives, I'm going to look through my list of primitives and I can see that the cylinder is going to be the closest one to the shape of a hat. And if I click on that, I can see that yes, there it is. And I can move this and bring this up. Once again, looking at my orthographic views, mostly my front and my side. And that looks pretty good. And now I need the little brim of the hat kind of going around. So what I could do is I could duplicate this shape. So I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate. And now it looks like nothing happened, but if I move this forward, I can see that it did duplicate that shape. Okay. And when I move it, I want to make sure that I don't like drag over both of them and move it because then they'd move together. I want to make sure that I just click one of them and then move it. And now I can see it like this. So now that I have this shape, I can go to my scale and I could scale this thin like this. And then I'm going to scale it from the center like that. And now I'm going to put this back in place and move it down. Hey, and there we go. Okay, I'm getting this hat on my snowman. Maybe I may scale that a little bit bigger and maybe make it a little bit thinner. Okay, excellent. So now maybe just a few more things. I'm going to go ahead and add some eyes. And to do that, create polygon primitives. And I'm going to look at what is the primitive that makes the most sense. And in this case, I think a sphere again is going to make the most sense. So if I click on that, it starts at the center of my screen, and I can move it in place. Remember holding down Alt, right mouse clicking to navigate. And now I'm going to position this where his eye would be. And I can see that from this view it looks good, but from this view I can tell it's way far away. And I can simply just push it until it basically touches his face. Okay, good. That looks good. And now I can take that and duplicate it, Control D, and bring it over to the other side. All right, congratulations. You're well on your way to making your first scene in Maya. In the next lesson, I'll continue the navigation around the viewport.